Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Joining Work with the Masters series called Ask the Masters. Today, we're going to be covering sharing information. But before we get started, I want to have everybody introduce themselves. So let me start with you, Pilar. If you could just share who you are and where you're located, that would be great.
Hello, my name is Pilar Winch, and I'm located in Baltimore, Maryland. I am the CEO of Natural Alternatives in Beauty, and that's me.
Pilar, how long have you been in the Sister Lock family?
I have been in the Sister Locks family since 2001,
Oh, okay.
and and it's been an amazing journey going from trainee to consultant to trainer, and
Great.
now mentor.
Perfect. All right, Miss Rosalie.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Rosalie Matthew, and I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm the CEO of Rosalie's Natural Hair Care and the Director of Stylistic Cell. And I'm excited to be here.
All right. And I am Dana Wilson, Director and CEO of Hair Cares Inc. I'm located in Hopewell, Virginia, and I've been a part of the Sister Lock family for over 22 years. Hopefully that's not telling my age too much, but
Whatever it is, it doesn't look it.
right. But it is our pleasure to come to you guys. Our whole intention behind these Q&As is really, we support providing the Sister Locks experience as it is intended through coaching and mentorship. And this series is part of our what we're up to, making sure that you guys are informed about the Sister Lock way, not the way, but the Sister Lock way, and then also add in our experience over the years as well. So today's topic was sharing information. I think the last one we did was gathering information. And so we just want to follow up with sharing, how to share the information about Sister Lock, specifically when you're doing like a consultation. So Rosalie, did we have any questions that were submitted? Because I think
So so the first question, remember, I don't know if we remember from last time, the young lady who had submitted pictures of the person with low density or the hair was thinning,
Yes.
and you had given some advice about typically those kind of people will give you that type of information in advance. So when it's time to, if you come in for the consults and now it's time to give information about how Sister Locks can be beneficial for this person, how are some of the positive things about Sister Locks? How can you use that sharing part to let them know that there's hope for them?
Okay, perfect. Thanks for reminding me. So if you don't know, I'm also a certified trichologist. So I help people with hair loss issues and scalp disorders. And I always get people to come to me that are having issues with hair loss, and they're concerned about if they're able to get Sister Locks. And so absolutely, you need to see the person. I mean, obviously you can't share and say anything sight unseen. You would need to see this person in person to be able to look at how severe the hair loss is, and have a sense of if this is permanent hair loss versus temporary. How you would know that without any education around hair loss is if the scalp is shiny, and it's like baby butt, like bald, that's an indication that it is scarred, that hair will never come back. If you don't see that, then there might be a possibility that hair can come back. And so therefore, one, you would probably want, depending on how severe it is, you would probably want to recommend that person to see a dermatologist or a trichologist. But if this person's hair loss has been like this for a while, and this is just what it is, you can absolutely establish Sister Locks. Of course, I would tell you that we always look at the density and stuff when we're parting the hair and everything. But we would, I guess, before that, to determine if it's temporary or permanent, we need to ask questions to the client to find out how long it's been, if there have been any new medications they've been introduced with, or any allergic reactions, if they change their diet. I would absolutely tell that person to get a physical, because it really starts with looking internally, and that's with blood work and things of that nature. So I would share with that person, please go see somebody. If it's something that just look totally out of your realm, go see someone so they can get a diagnosis, so you'll know if you need to move forward. Because if it's temporary, you can move forward. If it's permanent, and depends on how severe it is, they may not be a candidate. However, it's been my experience that I found most people are a candidate. You just have to be mindful about how the tension that you're applying as you're locking the hair and maintaining. And then also the parting sizes is a huge factor in the overall beauty of the locks in regards to low density. Pilar, do you have any experience with people coming in with low density?
Yes, I have. I have had quite a few clients who either have a diffuse low density throughout the head or specific areas that were challenging. And it really is just trying to balance something that's going to be stable with the fullness and a gentle touch, because
Yes.
Sisterlocks can be much more resilient than people think if they are cared for properly.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to go address some of the fundamentals to share information just in regards to the consultation in general, right? I mean, you begin your consultation with gathering information about the client, but now it's your turn to share information about Sisterlocks. And what you want to do initially for pre-education is share information, right? Share information about Sisterlocks in general, what they are, and then also how the person needs to come into the consultation, like how much new growth should they have? How should their hair be when they come in? This is part of the sharing of information.
Yeah, so that they're ready. So that pre-information helps to set them up. And you set the consultant and the client up so that they can have a successful consultation, because they'll be prepared for the next step of what happens when you're gathering information and sharing.
One of the requirements at the consultation is to use the portfolio, the consultation portfolio. And this portfolio is designed to help you along the way so that you won't forget anything. So you don't want to miss this step, because it really is a guide to walk through making sure that the client is clear that their journey is their personal journey. You really setting the expectation for the client and for yourself, really, to see how, get the gist of how long it might take for the hair to lock and things of that nature. So you cannot forget this part at all.
Good stuff. I was hearing the aspect of using the portfolio, because that's really your guide to how you're going to share the information. And also in light of the thinning hair person, I like how you said that, there are things that can be done. If you're thinking about certification, that wouldn't be the type of client that you would turn in for certification, but that is someone that you can have as a client, and you can change their lives that way.
For sure. I agree with you. I definitely wouldn't submit that person for certification, only because it's just a lot of variables and factors that may be not linked for the standard. You might have to deviate from the standard depending on what's going on with their hair, but it's definitely an opportunity to use your skills And it is beauty and being able to enhance people's beauty when, especially they already come in the door self-conscious about what's going on. That you
Right.
can use those skills to enhance their hair, enhance their beauty. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
then,
another, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I was going to talk about a little bit of information sharing regarding a low density client, because they're going to be very sensitive about the presentation of brand new locks. So
Mhm.
giving them a lot of reassurance that with this journey, you know, we know that locks expand and they fill in and there's fullness, and that there is the option for them to have a lot more fullness towards the, you know, as they proceed in their journey than what's going to happen initially, because you are trying to establish a foundation that is going to last for the long term.
Mhm.
Mhm.
A question was, you know how people come in with their, so during the information gathering, the person had a hair goals pictures of what they want their hair to look like. And so in the portfolio, there is a section that talks about how Sister Locks looks different for each hair type. And the sentence is only, you know, it's only a sentence. How else can someone help their client understand that uniqueness? What else can they say on top of it works with your curl pattern when someone has fixated themselves on what they think they want their hair to look like?
Yeah, I would say that even before they come in, even to meet the person, I'm making sure that I say this like 20,000 times, that they understand that, are you ready for your journey? You know, and then I've always asked, you know, like, of course, how did they find out about Sister Locks? A lot of times they seen another Sister Lock wear and they say, oh, I liked her hair. And I said, well, you know, that yours going to be uniquely your journey. And that is, in most cases, yours is not going to look like hers or his that you've seen. But using that consultation portfolio, you can reiterate that picture by picture. Notice that each person has Sister Locks, but they look totally different based off their particular hair pattern. You just want to over emphasize that point.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I can't, well, that's really the key, overemphasizing certain things so that they will stay with the person when they leave, because they're going to get a lot of information and they're going to hear it, but they might not absorb it all. But we want to make sure they come away with certain very important key factors
Yeah.
in relation to how their journey is going to be, what you can project.
Yeah.
And I also like to say upfront that I don't know what your hair is going to look like, neither do you. So we're just going to go on this. We're going to both be surprised together. And
I like that.
I like to, at each appointment, just make a really big deal about, especially if they're doing what they're supposed to and their hair is developing the way that it's supposed to, how excellent a job they're doing with the maintenance. And man, you're about to be a model client, or whose hair looks like this, right? Because it even after you've done all that and you've emphasized that it's unique to you, they're always gonna meet somebody and be like, well, I saw somebody's hair doing such and such, what about mine? I have a funny story. I have two sisters that both have Sister Locks, and one sister was like a rogue, she was a rogue client. She did whatever she wanted to do, but her hair was resilient, and if she needed any fixing, she was willing to pay for it. She literally told me, you know, every time she would come and have some issue, and I would stop working and I would, you know, come in front of her and be like, so this is what's going on with the hair, this is what we're going to need to do. So like the second time she was like, I don't need this explanation. Can you just fix it and tell me how much it is? And I was like, oh, then okay. So her sister's hair was more sensitive. So she's looking at her sister doing certain things, and then it has a more detrimental effect for the sister. So now that they're, you know, on their journey together, the one sister comes in, the rogue one comes in, oh, I love my hair. And the other one is like, how come my hair is not like hers? So I gave the same level of consultation I felt to help them understand that, your journey is yours. But at some point I had to ask the sister who kept comparing, like, how long do you plan to keep your locks? And she's like, oh, I'm never gonna cut them. So the way I tried to, I like to make jokes. I was like, oh, because I was just wondering how long we're gonna have this conversation. Your hair's your hair. Do you remember that we talked about that your hair's your hair? So when they go places and people gravitate towards your sister, it's because she has embraced what it is. If you embrace what yours is too, people are going to come and tell you your hair's nice too, because you're over here in the shadows like, oh, my hair doesn't look like so-and-so. And it's amazing, right? So I think that's part of especially that part of the consultation, to let them know about own what's yours and don't compare it to somebody else.
I think that is the major piece in sharing information, is getting that across, for sure. In fact, I had a potential client come in. She had a whole photo album with her family line of their hair.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I mean, because she was already an older client already. And so it was her grandmother, all this stuff. Hair was a big thing in their family. And I was just making sure, as she was showing those pictures, I said, you see how totally different each person's hair is in your family. So yours is going to be a totally different experience from anybody else. And so that is the main factor, the main thing you want to hone in when you're sharing information. And then, of course, we have sharing information in regards to your individual business, right? Your policies, your appointment instructions, things of that nature, your costs, the cost for maintenance, the scheduling is another factor. You guys have anything to share about that? Like,
go ahead,
I just think it's important because the person may be focused very much on the initial experience of getting their sister locks, but they're not thinking about what is involved in the long term maintenance, what their schedule is in relationship to what your schedule is as the consultant. Costs, all of these things have to be planned for, because your locks need to be nourished. You can't just put them in and then wander away. They need to be cared for on a regular basis. And I just found that even just the scheduling situation, it's good to talk about, because I have had people come for consultations who are lovely, but my schedule really does not fit with theirs, and I can't change my schedule because this is my business. And so some of them have had to find someone that suited their personal schedule better, or they actually made modifications to their schedule to accommodate what my availability was. But they knew ahead of time that this was what they were going to have to do. So you don't have a lot of difficulties after the fact with a client having a hard time scheduling.
That's good. I had a situation when COVID was really rampant. At that time, I was requiring that they did a COVID test prior to the establishment, both myself and the individual client. And I thought I was very clear. I even had it in my documentation. And the client, right before the establishment, the day before, she hadn't gotten the test. And so that didn't work. So you want to make sure that your policies are clear. And sometimes you have to remind people all along the way so that they won't forget, and so that there's mutual respect there.
I think I like that aspect of that didn't work, like you didn't move forward with that service, because I think there's a lot of people with policies that they're not enforcing. And when you don't enforce your policies, then you're creating a situation where people know you say stuff, but you don't really mean it. And so they're always going to be pushing the boundaries of what you're going to accept, even though you have it written down that you don't do. So enforcing, if you're going to take the time to tell somebody a policy, you should also take the time to enforce it.
Right. And I
Yes.
feel it's imperative always, if you're going to give something away, just they need to know. So if you have a policy, because our policies should be fairly strict, because this is a business and this is a legalese, but sometimes there are exceptions that we're aware of, and we want to make an allowance for someone, but we don't just not say anything. We make sure that we let them know, well, the policy for this situation is this, but because I understand what's happening with you this time, I'm going to do whatever it is instead that you've chosen to do. So they know that this was a special case for you at this moment, but it doesn't mean you're going to get that the next time.
I love that. I love that, Pilar. That's perfect. Because you do want to have some kind of, I mean, we're all human, things happen. You do want to have some kind of flexibility in there, but absolutely acknowledging that this was that freebie.
Yeah.
Being very, very clear so they won't become a habit. Yeah, yeah.
Dana, you had also mentioned about how people will be taking their payments as part of sharing information, the services that you're offering, and the business hours, like Pilar said. So there's a lot of things that could be deal breakers in the course of sharing information. Like, you've told them all about Sisterlocks and it's amazing, they want to move forward, but then in order to move forward, it has to look like this to work with me. And so there might be some deal breakers in there. So Pilar had one about your business hours. What are some other things that might be deal breakers when you're trying to get that client onboarded for the first time?
Well, say for example, one of the things, like I said, with COVID, that was one of my requirements, right? Also, you want to also share, interesting enough, you think is no brainer, but you also want to share your pet policy, right? Because we have a lot of pet owners and they love their pets, and I understand. However, they need to know that, whatever your policy is, okay? I've had a couple of experiences where that was not clear to my potential client, and they brought their animal, their dog. In one case, they brought it and wanted to just have it outside while they had their consultation or service, but that was something that needed to be, discussed. And you would think that person would say, hey, I want to bring my dog. Is that okay? They'll be outside, but is that okay? So things like that you don't think about. And then once you have that experience, you make sure like you reiterate that for the next time. Definitely.
Yes. Well, and it also depends whether you're working from home or you're working in an establishment, because the state board doesn't allow pets at all in a hair establishment. So I think even just stating that upfront when people are booking, that this is how you're coming. Last time we talked about, the appointment is just for that person. So right. in talking about it's just for that person, you could slide that in there too, no pets or whatever.
Well, at least
you make a stipulation. We just making a stipulation about pets, that when we're talking about pets, comfort animals, but legal working dogs for the blind, obviously.
Yeah, that's a whole different. A service dog is a whole different.
Service dogs, right? Mm-hmm,
but I was saying with that particular potential client, she knew that obviously she hadn't talked to me that she couldn't bring the dog inside, but her whole plan was to keep the dog outside, tied up outside, just so the dog would be able to free to use the bathroom and move her about. But I mean, clearly,
we still need to talk about the
bottom line is you will be surprised, even when you thought that you have covered all your bases, all your bases. Definitely. Be not surprised that there will be a new scenario that will show up that you will then have to add to your arsenal of things to ensure that people understand before they come.
I like to think of policies as those things that you do or don't want to happen again. Like if you want them to happen on a regular basis, then, you know, that's the policy states that. Or if you don't want it to happen at all, then the policy will state that.
Absolutely.
And as new things happen, like Dana said, as new things happen, you note to self, don't do that again.
And obviously policies are ever changing, because when COVID was rampant, the requirement for many were wearing masks, right? Now things have let out some, so maybe your policy has changed, and that's something that the clients will need to be notified of prior to service. What's your policy now, right? And obviously, if they're not willing to abide by those, then maybe you find them someone else.
Right. Wanted to go back to Pilar was talking about the ongoing maintenance for your hair, in addition to giving the quotes for what it is to get it done that first time, the ongoing maintenance and what other services you might need or what other services you offer is also something that you can cover during that time. I like to have like a hair plan that, you know, at a certain point, we're going to need to maybe do a grooming. At a certain point, we're going to maybe need to, whatever you see that the person might need, you might need a trim at a certain point or whatever, just what they can look forward to. A lot of people are always concerned about when can they color, right? So to set that expectation for, this is how the lock journey goes, and at this point, maybe we can do this. At this point, you could stop bundling. At this point, you could get some color. At this point, you could get a haircut, things like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the idea of a hair plan. That gives them something to look forward to. That's
right.
Nice. Yeah.
And then, then they won't want to fool around with somebody else because, you know, they don't know the plan.
Yeah.
Also, that also includes product usage as well, right?
Exactly.
Like what products they should be using, and what point do they graduate to another, and then how often should they be using these products as well? Because obviously we know using particular products at the wrong time or the wrong phase of locking can be detrimental.
Let's talk about product usage. So in the course of sharing information or in course of gathering, one of the questions I believe a lot of people would have asked is what products the client is using prior to getting Sisterlocks. And so if they give you this long list of the things that they were using, how do you let them know that you will need to just take it down to what?
I simply say, just let go of all that stuff that you got in your cabinet. Just go home and do a dump. Truly, because if it's not there, then you won't be tempted to use it. You know, because some of us are product junkies. We're just used to applying something and doing something to our hair. And so I tell them to go empty their cabinets, because I'm going to be promoting Sisterlock products. So I'm saying there is a product that is designed specifically for your hair management system, and that's the ones you should be using. So I'm going to tell them, go dump the cabinet out, simply. Yeah. And of course, I'm telling them why. I'm not just saying go dump it. It's a reason why. It's because these Sisterlocks are the products are formulated for the hair, and the impact that those products will do to the locks. Yeah. So it's not enough to just say use this. You have to share why they're using it. The ingredients in this product is doing this for your lock.
Right. And be a bit specific about how wrong products can be problematic, what some of the consequences could be: buildup, lint, uneven locking or unraveling, slippage, all of these things that could be a result of using certain products, either because they're the wrong products or at the wrong time.
Right.
But you know, they could be a product angel to their friends and like gift out all the rest of it.
Product angel, I like that.
I'm gonna tell you, when I got my Sisterlocks, I had so much stuff. I had waxes, greases, gels. It was ridiculous. Like I actually had room after I took all that stuff. I actually had room to put real things in there in my. I had so much stuff. My sisters were happy. I would say that when I gave them all that stuff. But I wanted to share a funny story about these products because I had a client. Of course, when they came in for their consultation, I shared about the Sisterlock Starter Shampoo and what it was designed to roughen the cuticle layer and all of that. And the client came in after she had her locks established and all her locks had slipped out. I mean, totally, I had no lock in place. Okay. So I had to do a reestablishment. And then, so of course I went over those shampooing protocols with her. I had demonstrated, I let her demonstrate to me. She swore that that's what she was doing at home. She came back for her next appointment and they were all out again. And I'm like, scratching my head. I had her show me what she was doing. I mean, everything to a T she was able to describe to me. Only to find out that while I was reestablishing her locks, she was sharing how sexy she has been feeling since she had her her sister locks. I'm like, okay, I can understand that, you know, good on you. Well, what she was doing is every time when she would get out the shower, when she would lotion her body, she would run her fingers through her hair as well. So
with the lotion.
With the lotion. So she was so sexy. Okay. She's so sexy. But she was able to tell me she was shampooing her hair correctly, right? Braiding and bundling. But what she wasn't sharing was that every single day she was running that lotion through her hair. So obviously that was counterproductive to what we needed to have happen. And so of course I share with her, it is wonderful you feel sexy. That is great impact of something like, but it is counterproductive to what we try to do for your locks. So you want to explain what the products are doing as well, so that they can also get the impact of what they may be doing that's hindering the process.
You know, the one question that I like to ask, I learned to start asking it after this lady came for the consult and everything. It sounded like, you know, we can move forward for me to share this information. And then when I started sharing about what you can't do product-wise and how you have to shampoo every other time, she's like, oh, I don't think I could do that. Oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, right? Oh. So I closed all my stuff and I just looked at her and I was like, how committed are you to this process? So anywhere where I meet resistance, I'm just like, yeah, how committed are you to this process? Because as you can see, we're spending a lot of time together to talk about it. There's a commitment that needs to be given from your, because I'm here to give it. So I want to see that you're going to give the same. And as soon as I said, so I, you know, she was like, well, you know, it just sounds like it, you know, it's just stuff I'm not used to. I say, I understand, but this is what needs to happen in order for you to get this end result. So if you're not committed to doing it, then this might not be the right time for you, right? Mm-hmm. Then she, okay, go back. What did you say again?
You have to make sure that they understand how important it is to follow. I mean, this is their investment, they're babies, and they really need, I mean, they're spending good money for them. So
they have to take responsibility for that aspect as well.
Yeah. So no, I was just, based on what you were saying about how committed maybe this isn't the right time, we do need to make sure that people, to be wary of people who are extremely decisive, as in, I know I want this. They're not really listening to you. And when, because you might be like, you know what? I know we could schedule you for something today, but I want you to go home and think about it for a couple of days and then get back to me. It might seem counterintuitive to push away that immediate decision, but if you get a vibe that a person is rushing the process, you know, you're just going to have problems with them later because they won't be ready when you when they actually come for the establishment, and then you have to deal with the ongoing issues of an unprepared person.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
Vibes. That's a good topic to talk about, vibes, because you should feel the vibes, I think, early, right? Maybe even before you start sharing information, we'll be like, yeah, this vibe is off. We don't even need to go that far.
Yeah.
And not to override if it feels like it's probably gonna be a problem, it probably will be, right? And so how should people work through trying to navigate like this vibe is not feeling good? How can I extricate myself from this situation?
Yeah, you have a couple of ways you can handle it. I mean, you could have a busy schedule, that would be one, or you can offer them another consultant that you think will be a better match for that individual. For example, if the client comes in and they need, they're kind of high maintenance, and I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I'm just saying like if they need a full service salon, meaning that they want styling, they want color, they want someone else to shampoo their hair. And that's not the service, all those services you don't provide. That would be high maintenance for you, that you don't accommodate. So it might be best for them to go to someone else, you know? So, I would then, in that case, absolutely, maybe find or recommend another consultant that they can see.
Hi, Denise.
Hey, lady. Can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us right now.
Can you hear us, Denise? No. I had to join from my my laptop.
Okay.
Pilar, do you have anything to add about that if the vibe is just not right?
Yeah, similar to what you did, scheduling. Well, I have to go over my schedule a little bit to see for sure what I have available, or just being clear about my availability is in the far distant future. So you have some time to think about the person. One that I personally have not used, but I know another consultant who does use it, and she's just very straightforward. And she's like, I've had a wonderful experience with you, but I've come to realize that, based on some things, we're not really a good fit. So I'm going to need to so I encourage you to go to the registry, because there are some other great consultants out there. So, I mean, you can just be very direct about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's just the easiest, because now they're not texting you and blowing up your phone trying to get you to see them.
Right. They say you tell them 6 months and they call you in 6 months.
On 6 months on the dot, right?
Yeah. Or you can say that they're just, based on what you've told me, it sounds like you're really interested in getting Sisterlocks, but you are just not ready at this time. And I don't like to force people to do things they're not ready for. So I'm gonna defer for right now.
Yeah, I've used that one a lot, that it doesn't appear that this is the right time for you. Yeah. I also like to use business hours as a way of, because I like asking that early in the information gathering. So then I already know that your work schedule is not going to work. So we're going to get to a place where when I start sharing, you are going to be like, oh, it doesn't look like this is going to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Denise, can you hear?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yay.
Mm-hmm. Welcome. Sorry.
Worries.
Tight Mondays. That's all I got to say.
I also encountered a situation where the young lady had half of her locks established or half of her head established, and she needed someone to finish the rest of it. However, once I took a look at her hair, I decided that we were not a good fit, due to the fact that she was sharing that she could only sit for 1 or 2 hours at a time. And that was the issue that she was having with her current consultant, was that because she could only sit for 1 or 2 hours at a time, they were planning to do it for like every day for a couple of hours.
Mm.
And every day, for some reason, the consultant couldn't do it or she couldn't do it, and it never got done. And I wasn't willing to do it that way. I didn't have time to have someone come every day for a couple of hours. And I didn't foresee that that would be good for me moving forward as well. So I in turn referred her to someone else who was willing to do it just like that. And they were able to get that done. So yeah.
And there's someone for everyone, I think.
Right.
I think we shouldn't feel like you have to take on something that doesn't feel like it's gonna work, or trying to contort it to make it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We all know that all money isn't good money. And it could be a personality thing. Some people are very vocal about their personal views on certain issues. And if that is in conflict with your moral or integral individually, there's no reason to subject yourself, because as consultants, we're sounding boards. People share their personal thoughts and feelings with us. But if that's going to become a stressor because you can't stand their personal thoughts and feelings, it wouldn't be wise to put yourself in a situation where you have to deal with that all the time, because everyone's free to think and feel how they want to feel. So yeah,
it just made me think about your environment as well. So you may have the TV on during service, or the radio. That might be a conflict with that. Or do you allow people to talk on the phone while they're getting serviced? Or do you allow eating in your space? So these are some of the things that you would need to share during your consultation. Are you allergic to something that, the person cannot bring into your space? These are some of the things that you would want to share and discuss up front.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, how just when you were talking about the type of conversation, how would you know, or what can you ask, or what can you do to try to get that red flag to show up somehow?
In regards to what?
In terms of the conversation.
Yeah, the direction of person.
How will you know that this conversation, like this person's conversation, doesn't gel with me?
Well, that is a hard one to do. Sometimes it turns out to be one of those after the fact situations. But I think, in addition to asking questions about their hair history and things that pertain particularly to their hair, we are encouraged to do, acceptance issues and things around their lifestyle. So, just generalized questions about, or do you have a family, or, what do you do for work? And, a lot of times people will pour out things about themselves.
Right.
So that you can get a better understanding. And presentation as well. Is the person, are you an open person? Hopefully, as consultants, we're open and generous people. I hope so. But is the person blunt? Are they direct? Are they rude to you? I mean, if they're that way in the consultation, then that's who they are. Even if they're anxious about getting sister locks, your interchange with them is anxiety producing, then you need to reflect on why. Why is this, what is bothering me about this interchange when it seems like we're having a pretty straightforward conversation?
Yeah. I like to listen for the things they keep repeating. Sometimes people repeat certain things a lot. And if I hear it like 2, 3, 4 times, I'll be like, you keep saying so-and-so, what is that about?
Yeah.
And then that usually takes the conversation in a different direction, where you can get all that underneath the surface stuff. I think, the more you do a consult and you observe people's body language and the words that they're using to describe certain things, you get a little bolder to like get in those areas, just so that you can let them know that how serious this is for you. Like if we're gonna, I think I flat out say that, like, I like my conversation to be positive. So I'm gonna ask you, how do you feel about work? That's one of the ways I ask certain things is, how do you feel about the work? What do? You feel about your work? And if they hate their job, we're gonna have to spend some time right there because I need to find out, are you trying to do something about that, or you just a person who likes to sit incomplete? And then I'll know how to move forward from there. But you have to find your way to get that thing to come out during the consult so you can know whether you're moving forward or not.
I like that one because I did have a situation with a person wherein it didn't occur to me to say that, and she seemed fine, but in the ongoing, she's determined to say things to bait a person. So if the radio happens to be on and it's, instead of music, a commentary, the little news thing that comes between music, she will find some way to make a comment on whatever that is. And the entire purpose is simply to make someone upset and see what they'll say. And, and I would just ignore it. I'm like, I'm retightening. She made a comment. I have no concern. And then she would just repeat it and keep repeating it. And eventually we had to, I had to take her aside and we had a chat about that. But if I would have thought about that in the beginning, like, I like to keep conversations positive. I don't like to, this is not a space for debate. We're not changing, we're not going to change the world here. We're just going to make you beautiful.
That reminds me of a scenario I had with a long-term client that was typically positive. Then for some things that obviously were going on in her life, and I mean, you could not redirect the conversation for anything to have her have a positive spin or anything. And you could actually feel the negative energy when she walked in the door. And I mean, several times would go by. Obviously months would go by. And I said, you draining me right now. Like, I had to just be honest, because I would do everything I could to redirect the conversation or spin it in a positive light. She was just in a real dark place. And it was really taken away from me. Like, I wasn't looking forward to her coming. And it was it actually was slowing me down. And I had to just be honest. Hey, lady, and I would ask her if she was seeing anyone, like seeing maybe a therapist or a counselor and stuff. I was like, this is getting thick and it's draining me. And so we had to have a conversation. And eventually she went and seen someone and got past that. But it started affecting how I was performing. And so unfortunately, sometimes you may have these kinds of situations with a long time. You're going through highs and lows with these clients, right? So many things are happening in their lives as you're caring for their hair. And so you hopefully you have a good rapport where you can just kind of be honest with your clients about what's going on.
Right. I like how you described that the energy that she walked in with. So that is even when the client first walks in the first time, you're also paying attention to the breeze that they bring in, right? Yeah. Whether it's a warm and fuzzy breeze or it's like,
right.
A cold breeze.
Yeah.
But I've always also had scenarios where people's energy, obviously energy sometimes changes from day to day too. It's not that one that's constant. Some things are just constant, right? But I've had scenarios where that initial meeting was not good. Like the energy was totally off. And then the next time it's like brand new person, maybe I caught them on the wrong day. That first impression was really not it.
Or you can change it in the course of the conversation, right? They can walk in a certain way, but then you can change it over the course of the conversation that you have with them. I had a client come for a consult who had sister locks before. And so she came in with the energy of, I've had them before. I don't need to go as in depth with this consult as she could tell as I wanted to, right? And so she kept dismissing the things I was trying to tell her, but I'm clever, right? So I found my way to the real issue. And the real issue was she's not recently divorced, but she was going through some things within that divorce. And so her conversation was just like that. She just brushes things off. So when I insisted on doing things the way that I do them, I understand that, yeah, I understand you already know, but did you also know X, Y, and Z? Oh, no, I didn't know that. Okay. So then as I did more of, but did you, yeah, I understand you know that, but did you know? Then she was like, you know what? I've never had a consultation like this. Yeah, because, yeah, you need to, right? You need to come open to the experience that you're going to have with someone else. And the same for the consultant. Like, it's not everybody who comes in that you just run through your script the way that it, whatever. You're going to, yeah, you're going to switch it up for each person and feel for what needs to be done for that person. Because really, at the end of the day, some other transformation is happening when we do sister locks, right? There's a different transformation happening on top of transforming their hair. So you have to be open to, like, you know, maneuver that.
Yeah, I had a client, a long-term client who I hadn't established. She was a transfer client, and she decided she wanted to reestablish her locks because there were some valid concerns about the first set of locks that she had. However, I knew all of the story of how she was with her first consultant. But of course, we had a consultation. Just because she's my client already doesn't mean we're not. So we had a consultation, and I laid out everything. This is what we're going to use. What products are we going to use? Only Sister products. How are we going to care for her hair when we shampoo it? Yes, we're going to be braiding and banding. There will be no skip. And she's like, oh, but you know, I didn't do, I know you didn't do any of the things with your other consultant, but you're going to do it with me. Are we on board with this process? Because this is the way it goes. And so far, so good, because, you know, I had to release her. She's military, so she's now off with someone else. But if I wasn't serious with her about that, her locks wouldn't be in a place where it'd be easy for her her consultant that she's transferring to deal with her. Because yeah, when your locks are the right size, some things are more problematic than when they're, you know. I don't want to get into it.
I had a client who had came to me after their 5th set.
Wow.
And I said, and you're here because of what? And what makes this time different? Like, why are you doing, we had to get to the source of why are you doing this? And it really was a hairstyle for her, not a hair management system, but a hairstyle. And so, and she was also a stylist. So she would take it out at whim. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, you may not want me to be your consultant because I'm not doing this for you to just take it down. So I need to understand why you're doing this and what makes this a different scenario. Needless to say, I did establish her locks, and I mean, she's had them for over 10 years now. But I think with her experience, her consultants were not, she didn't even know about the Sister products.
Wow.
She didn't know, yeah. So she was having, each set was a different issue. It was bunching, or she was using color, the wrong kind of color. She was, you know, it was just a lot of information she didn't know. And then her flightiness as well was playing a part in that. So, I mean, as you can see, for the information gathering, there's a lot of talking. It is a lot of relationship building. This is about a conversation. Everything is built in the conversation. And so you're going to have to ask questions and figure out clever ways to dig a little deeper based off what people are sharing with you.
That's right. How about, so once you and your client you've talked enough, you feel comfortable that the person can move on with you, how do you recommend that they proceed?
So in regard to after the consultation? After
the consultation, in terms of like scheduling future appointments and any paperwork that needs to be.
Well, of course, we have our handy dandy Sister Locks client agreement, which can be, you know, since we're talking to consultants, consultant trainees that might not have a full fully fleshed out policy, you can use that form as is. However, you can also modify it and add information on there or with it. So what is their length of the hair? What is the cost? How much, how much are we subtracting for the consultation fee, the deposit to reserve the dates? Is our deposit refundable? Is our deposit refundable?
Good question for you to figure out. Yeah. Also, do you have a late policy?
Yeah.
What is the grace period are you allowing for the client to be a little tardy? What is your policy on being a no-show?
Oh, yeah. Girl, I learned that one the hard way.
Also, are you doing reminders to the client as well for their appointments? Is this part of your protocol? You might want to share that. I can do a 24-hour reminder call. I've heard of some consultants say they have the client call them.
Confirm. Okay, I know that's right.
That sounds
How
good.
serious are you?
And how do you schedule? I schedule several appointments out because I have, in order to organize my calendar, I have to know my standing clients are in place. If that's not something that you can do, maybe because some people have work schedules where they don't know what their schedule is until right before. I can't do that. I need to be able to give you at least 2 to 3 months of appointments ahead of time. If not, maybe 4, maybe even 4. Yeah.
The other thing is, that's interesting to say that because sometimes, depending on how booked your schedule is, if the client needs to reschedule, what does that look like? Are you able to accommodate those people sooner than later? Or if they missed it, does this totally take them off schedule because you don't have anything for 2 months down the line? This is something they might want to know before deciding to choose you as a consultant, because maybe that doesn't work for them,
Right.
because this
For me,
schedule are.
Yeah, for
And
me,
it's that-
scheduling ahead works because now I know where you are. And it's better if you're on my books than if you're not, for me to
Yeah.
rearrange things. So it was work, but it is true. Sometimes there's just no appointment until a certain period of time and they have to be willing to wait. But for me, it's helpful because otherwise I might forget and put someone in a spot where I needed someone else to be, and then it's a big kerfuffle. Yeah.
This
Thanks.
is something we need to discuss. I mean, and the client needs to know, do you only do clients on the weekend? Are you only during the day, during the week? I mean, that's going to make the difference if you're compatible or not. Yeah. How about you, Denise?
I'm an observer at this point. Yeah, but the scheduling I feel is very important, and it has to contrive with your schedule. You don't want to go outside of your schedule to accommodate. I used to do that quite often when I became independent because I didn't have a coordinator. So I'm available, I'll take them at any given time. And I find that just doesn't work. When I had someone that organized my thing, it worked beautifully for me. So I had to learn how to organize myself, because my heart is there for them. And I do want to take care of the person. And if I'm free, that's what I do. And I find that became a little problem because they got used to that type of thing. So I had to restructure them, make sure they make their appointments 3-4 months in advance with a deposit, 48-hour notice for cancellation, those type of things. And I have a system that takes care of that, which, helps me out beautifully now. But just to be available, and whenever they call, they'll have that inconsistency type of thing too. But they knew whether or not you have this schedule, when you have this schedule, then they will follow it easily because they want to keep their hair, looking well. And that's the first thing I tell them in consultations, either with a first-time person or transfer. It's a schedule in place that you have to keep. It's not when you feel like coming to get your hair done. In order for the integrity, you got to maintain your appointments. And so I gauge the appointments based on the density of the hair, how many locks they have. So it's anywhere between 4 weeks to 6 weeks. I put them in that category. Everybody for me can't be just 6 weeks. Everybody for me can't just be 4 weeks, because the time frame I'm working in gives me the ability to do a certain amount of people per day.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I would like to touch on one area about the locking session or that establishment, given the expected time frame.
Mhm.
How do you share that?
Personally, if they're a new establishment, I
Mhm.
usually give them like a month. Each month, 4 weeks, no more than that, because their hair is doing a lot of shifting.
Okay.
They're not quite in control of the knowing of how to maintain their hair. So I don't want them to be out too long with any kind of, mishaps or things like that. If they have a curl pattern that is with no roughness to the cuticle, high density and deep, well, sometimes I bring them in for 3 weeks just to stay on top of it to control the hair. So the locks are larger, the hair is more dense, with a whole lot of activity in that curl pattern. So at the beginning, that's what I'll do until I find that it's easier to complete that retightening within a certain time. Then I'll back them out to 4 weeks or 5 weeks, that type of thing. But if they're a transfer client, I start them off within a month's time and see how I flow with them to get their hair done, because you don't know what's going on up in there until you see it. And a lot of times you may have to repair something. And then you just, I put them in a space where I know I can finish them within the hour frame I have for retightening.
Yeah, absolutely. Setting expectations is a big deal. I mean, that's part of the consultation is you're assessing their hair. I mean, they're assessing you and you're assessing them and the hair as well to give you a sense of how much time you need to allot for each person.
Right.
Rosalie, before we conclude, I just want to make sure that there was no other questions that was submitted or asked upon us before we conclude for today.
Questions, but I wanted to also add about the scheduling of the locking session and the follow-up.
Yes.
That those should be done at the consult so that there's no chance for the person to fall off their follow-up routine.
Exactly.
And
Oh, yeah.
from the follow-up routine is when you will determine how long the interval, right? What their appointments should be. And I like to graduate it like Denise, I keep telling you guys, whatever Denise does is what I do. Right? So you start off, right? You start off with the shorter time frame, and at each time that you see them, and you see that you have some level of predictability or whatever, you have some control of what's happening with their hair, then you can always increase the time. But it's always about trying to get a certain number of people done in a certain amount of time for you to run your business properly. So just planning ahead, really, I think is what the general message should be.
I would say as a trainee, you want to like overestimate the time it's going to take you to do an establishment. If you think it's going to take you 2 days, tell them 3 days. I mean, because you don't want there to be an issue that you didn't complete it. And then now you're trying to figure out how you're going to get this person back on the schedule to be able to finish that establishment. So you want to overestimate. If it only takes you 2 days and you told them 3, they're going to be happy and like, she got me done fast, or I got a day off of work, because people are planning around this, this event, because it really is an event.
Both ways, right? That the client should set aside the time. They shouldn't sit in your chair and then decide they don't have enough time to sit for that day. They should set aside the time, and you confirm that you're able to sit here from this time to this time so we can make some progress.
Right.
Yeah.
So having a clear understanding of what a day is for you. Is a day 6 hours? Is it 12 hours? What is a day? So they know, oh, okay, there's no planning of extracurricular activities on my locking day.
Yeah. And what does that day look like? Are you going out for lunch or something? Are you bringing food with you? Like that I've seen has posed a lot of issues where people will go and be gone for several hours at a time. And the consultant is waiting there. So these are things that you need to discuss up front so that you won't be in a situation.
Right, you can't wing it. You gotta structure it, you know?
It's too much work and too much time to
There's work
wing.
to do. And too many interruptions, you know, if you don't do it properly, you know, you let them know the time frame, let them know if you got breaks in advance, you can bring your food, you know, those type of things. TV is here, you know, but if you prefer, you know, just being on your phone or whatever the case may be, you know, you work that out. Or if you want music, you know, I just tell them the variety of things that they can, you know, enjoy during the process. But I give them personally, I give them like an hour lunch. I give myself an hour lunch and I do an 8-hour day. And that has to do with, you know, so I'm going to do 2 days no matter what. I don't care if you got 2 inches, I'm still doing 2 days. 'Cause, you know,
That's right.
I'm not wearing myself out, you know? Yeah, so, but if they have more than like 8 inches, 9 inches, I may put on a 3rd day.
Yeah.
Because I try to only to do 7 hours to about 8 hours a day. And it just generally completed. 99.5% is complete.
And it's
You definitely want to pace yourself.
And you want to pace yourself. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. I enjoy it, so I don't want to overwhelm myself. It'll make me not, you know, I will not enjoy it. I want to enjoy it. You know, it's a journey and it's a wonderful journey. And you can see the outcome when they're completely finished. They're so full of joy.
Yeah.
You know, and just, you could just feel the energy of the weight just fall off of them, you know, and I enjoy that so much. And that's what keeps me doing it, you know, because it's just a beautiful thing. But we got to maintain that beautiful thing, you know what I mean?
Then if your expectations are realistic to what you can accomplish, then
Right.
you can feel good. You know, example, I had a client with so much hair that a section was a day. Yes, one section one day, next day other section in the back. One day, another section another day. That was just the way it was going to be. But I knew it, so then I could just embrace that instead of trying to rush or feeling bad or whatever. Just do a good job with the time I had to work in, so you can keep your quality up. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that is it for today. I'm so glad, and hopefully this information was helpful to you. We will continue this series called Ask the Masters, and we'll post the next topic of the discussion as well. And so until next time, thank you for joining us.